Welcome everyone. So we would like to offer some exercises for the week. The purposes of these exercises is to make this work practical, to remember more frequently about being in the present moment, attentive, aware, conscious of what's happening instead of being checked out past or future and lost in our busy lives. So it's all about, as we talked last time, having more frequency of remembering about the work to apply it. And this frequency will lead to more duration. So also the exercises we'll present today are based on a very important Gurdjieffian fourth way principle that he talks often. He calls it, in a way, a conscious duty of humans that we forgot, like a conscious duty striving, which will be to, let's call it, striving towards conscious labor and intentional suffering. Conscious labor and intentional suffering. The key word here is conscious and intentional, because everybody, our ancestors and all of our fellow humans, there's labor and there is suffering. But we are talking here about conscious labor and intentional suffering. Not usual, not just the mechanical working, being busy, making money, raising children, trying to survive. We have to do this anyway. And not just regular suffering, just suffering and wallowing in it and creating our own suffering. It's more like using the suffering that we have intentionally, somehow having a different attitude towards the unavoidable suffering. And all of this in order to remind ourselves to be more conscious. So some simple exercises, you can choose maybe 2 of them. They are all based on this idea of intentionally choosing for oneself some intentional friction or intentional discomfort that we create for ourselves, small one, and needs to be inconspicuous. Don't tell other people, don't show off, don't be conspicuous. So that would be, for instance, to for a few days to put a coin or 2 coins in a shoe or a pebble in your shoe, and each time you become aware of the discomfort of that, or something remembers and is perplexed, our mechanicality is a little bit shocked, and it's going to be like, what's going on? What's this? So each time they become aware of the discomfort, then take a moment to remember experientially about the work and using that spoke in the wheel to be more aware of what's happening, be conscious of what was the mental state, was I lost in imagination, what's happening in the body, tension, sensation, sounds, and using that as a ringing of the bell and trying to stay observing and remembering as long as possible. The coin in the shoe one, yeah? Another one would be, we all have this usual, I mean, some of us don't, some of us that wear rings or bracelets or watches, so you can intentionally for a week change the position of a ring, or put the watch on the other hand, or the bracelet on another hand, in a way that, again, the instinctive moving center, they will be like, what's going on? There will be something, a little small discomfort that we use again, like with a coin or the pebble, to be more conscious of what's happening, having more frequency of remembrance of being and awarenessing. Another such exercise, following the same principle of intentionally creating this discomfort or friction for the purposes of remembrance would be about the phone. Actually, we are with the strong tendency, addiction, compulsion towards going towards the phone for mysterious reasons. Discomfort, sense of lack, habit, escaping oneself, escaping what's really happening. And one of the most pernicious habits we can have is to get lost and identify with the phone first thing in the morning. So another exercise would be to not go on the phone, not to check the messages, not to check texts, emails, Instagram, Facebook, until after we've had the shower or went to a bathroom, or maybe have like the 20-minute window where keep it a simple, natural life, do what the body needs to do, and remember to, maybe even before you get out of bed, to remember about observing what's happening and tuning into the sense of the silence of being before going into do, think, or have a little bit of 5-10 minute silent practice or meditation, and then go on the phone. The same phone exercise will be useful as throughout the day our compulsion will take us to just feel time to go for the Instagram, Facebook, whatever else you check, your stocks. You can delay it a little bit, just delay it. Yeah.
I can add too that it's so helpful to understand the purpose of why we're doing this. We're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. These little things are ways of purposely, intentionally introducing, as Mihai said, discomfort and slight irritation by virtue of interrupting the momentums of comfort in our four centers. Because what happens is we move, it's not even that we move from comfort to comfort in the four centers. We avoid discomfort and then avoid discomfort and then avoid discomfort. We avoid irritation. And what we're avoiding is pressure. And so these little exercises are ways of purposely introducing pressure internally, and then understanding how pressure, even taking away that word pressure and just the phenomenon that word is meant to describe, purposely introducing it, creating it in ourselves in a small way for a short period of time, for the purpose of studying how this can bring us back to presence, or how it can help clarify awareness, clarify, as Mihai says, the silence of being, our silence of being, which gets lost, loses itself, forgets itself, fades into the background unconsciously, because we're always looking for comfort. Comfort lulls us to sleep and keeps us asleep. And the comfort is not bad, but in this sense of it keeping us asleep. So this is a way to go against this, what is a very large force in our lives, and to start in small ways and to see how this relates to self-remembering, to consciousness, to presence. And the phone, I was just thinking when Mihai was describing the exercise, the phone is a strange thing, because what it is we are reaching for something else to create life for us. We're asking the phone, give me life, give me energy, give me interest. And so instead of that coming from within us, instead of that naturally arising from the silence of being in us, and there's nothing more interesting than that, really. But instead of that, we don't recognize that. It doesn't recognize itself. And instead there's a vacuum, and we try to fill the vacuum with the stimulus of something like the phone. And the phone, because it's electronic, it's a very powerful device. And I mean, it can connect us with the entire world. It's amazing when you think about it. But that's why it's so addictive in part, is because it's so powerful and it seems so real, so vital, so life enhancing. And it's not. It's soul deadening, really, in so many ways. It's conscious deadening, awareness deadening. So that's a big one, the phone. So for 10, 15, 20 minutes, if we can avoid it in the morning, first thing, this will really sound a nice tone for the day of making the priority of presence, conscious awareness first in our day, in our life. Everything else following that. You know, the silence of our being should not be something that comes later. It should not be something that comes second or third or fourth on our list of priorities, added on to all the other things. In right order, it's there first and remains first as we go about doing everything else. But pressure, we're creating a little bit of irritation, a little bit of discomfort, which will produce a certain flavor of pressure. And to taste that and not be afraid of that pressure. This relates to so many things, other things about the fourth way and this teaching, and about the transformation of our life as a human being, becoming more and more conscious of this life as a human being. Mm-hmm.
And piggybacking on the phone, one of my teachers would say that actually the phone, and especially smartphones, they are an extension of the mind. Basically, it's like mind times 100. And in the past, when you go in the metro or the train or on the street, you will see people lost in the mind. You can see that they are not quite there. It's like lost in the churning of the wheels of the past and future and commentary. Now, actually, you see everybody is lost in the phone, in the mind of the phone. Yeah, the mind applications, it's like externalized now. So very interesting. It's very important and essential to bring the work to this. It's an up. Buddha didn't teach about this. There's no phones and nobody thought about this. Only Thich Nhat Hanh started more recently to bring awareness to this.
Also, we're lucky we have it in a way because of this. It's such an obvious thing, such an obvious device that we can use. We can harness it consciously instead of it using our consciousness, absorbing our consciousness. So it can also be seen as it's so available. It's available all day, really, when you think about it, as something to.
Yeah.
Another thing Mihai and I were thinking about with these exercises is one way to think about interrupting momentum is to create delay, to delay the urge to look at the phone, to delay the urge to take the pebble out of the shoe, to delay these little things and watch what happens with this thing called pressure or friction internally. This is rich ground, fertile ground for observation and presence.
This way with the phone, especially, then we want the phone to be an instrument. Actually, now I'm very far from Peter. I'm on the other side of the world and using this iPhone. So it's an instrument for connecting, instrument for bringing higher knowledge in order to become more conscious and reaching you all. So to keep awareness through this phone using, electronic using, so it's an instrument. YouTube could be a totally checking out, numbing out, escaping the sense of deficiency, unworthiness, or could be used for promoting higher consciousness, so having it as an instrument or being used and sucked dry by that. Gurdjieff used to say that there's no friction, there's no fire. And if suffering didn't exist, we would need to invent it. So all of these exercises we mentioned today, they are intentionally kind of creating certain discomfort, friction, not because we want to torture ourselves, not because we want to atone some sinful nature or something, but to create this flame, this friction, to create this spark of observing and coming back to the present and being conscious of what's in the present and staying there as much as possible, noticing state of the body, the senses, staying in the present, and if we can actually to tune into the sense of presence, being aware of being, using all of this exercise like a bell to be aware of being, and ultimately and thusly being aware of what arises in the being that we are.
And it's again, these are small little exercises, but what we're doing with them is we are practicing how to participate consciously in a principle. And the principle, if you want to call it that, is related to transformation. So if we can learn when the pebble in the shoe starts to irritate the foot, or we want to reach for the phone and we delay that and we feel the pressure building, if we can learn to remain present in the face of that little pressure, it will be the same thing that will, when we face something large in our life that creates pressure, like a large form of suffering or a large difficulty or something, we'll already know, we'll know the value of remaining as conscious as we can while whatever that is plays itself out. So this is connected to something very big, but we're starting out in a very small way just to get a taste, to get a flavor of what all this might have to do with being more awake.